What is going on, everybody? Welcome to, I guess, just say my post game show. Obviously, Eagles coming out with a tough win over the Cowboys 28-23. Before we get into everything, all of that, if you guys new, make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, make sure you ring that notification bell. That being said, just kind of hop right in the nitty gritty. Um, I gotta say, GG to the Dallas Cowboys for really give us a run for our money. I guess you could say. There's a lot of things I would say that just never really sit well with me. Um, Mostly that's because of the defense of the secondary. Now I know Slade kind of improved his playing during the second half, but Bradbury is not the guy for me. And at some point, I just don't think, like I said, I don't want to say we could, I see some Eagles fans say trade him and all this nonsense, but we'll talk more on that later. Um, but yeah, the Eagles come out of this one a little bit banged up, I would say, with going to the bye week. Goddard with a forearm injury. Um, and yeah, and you pretty much had the same crew as last week against the Washington Commanders. And I've seen a lot of people giving Byard a bit of a hard time, knowing the fact this is his second game with the Philadelphia Eagles, so he's still trying to get used to being a system, and at the same time, not having Bradley Roby kind of hurts in the nickel spot. So it really, you really can't really blame Byard for playing out of position, because Byard for me is always like a man to man type of safety. We'll focus more in the middle of the field and not in towards the slot. But I will say, if you're a Cowboys fan, the fact, and I trust me, I've seen some that blame this last on Dak. To be quite honest, Dak was not the problem tonight. Quite honestly, it was part of your defense and part of your offensive line. Terrence Steele is a complete trash. I'm not just saying because I'm an Eagles fan, but Terrence Steele is just your right tackle spot's kind of weak. And you had guys like Sweat, Barnett, or not Barnett, but Brandon Graham twice getting past um Terrence Steele for a couple of sacks. The offensive line for Dallas just was not that. It was not terrible, but wasn't great either. I would say that I would describe this as kind of like mostly from the right tackle spot. I think it's just been terrible. Dak still solid QB, solid top 15 QB, but at times, it's just a lot of times people give him a lot of flack. No pun intended. A lot of shit basically because he just doesn't really do or not doesn't have that clutch gene as people would say. What's going on, Giordano? What's going on, Daniel? But yeah, it's look whether and yeah, both sides been penalized heavily on both sides. So you really can't. And you're going to be one of those delusional fans say, "Oh, the Eagles got helped out by the refs." Not exactly, because both the Eagles and Cowboys were penalized 10 times on each side. Bradbury in particular, which I will continue to pick on because, well, some of the penalties. It was. I do think it should be a candidate for a game of the year. But I will say, I'll give Dallas the benefit of the doubt. Look, I think they still got tremendous talent. But the problem that I always see with the Cowboys is Jerry Jones is still owning this team. This team ain't going nowhere until Jerry Jones releases ownership of that franchise. Because look, Dak can give you like 300 some yards a game, and yet the Cowboys can't do really much with that come January. Not because it's not like I said. I'm not saying that because I mean, as from a division rival, but we've seen it the last few years from this CeeDee Lamb, phenomenal wide receiver. I really can't say nothing too terrible about him. Pretty much had a really solid game on his own right. Had 11 catches for a buck 91 on 16 targets. The dude's a phenomenal wide receiver, and yeah, our secondary stinks. I mean, I thought Ferguson actually had a pretty solid game as well for a guy. I wouldn't say it was a replacement for Dalton Schultz when Schultz left, but I would say, putting up much better numbers, I would say, than Dalton Schultz himself. Tolbert's been actually surprising. I really can't say too much on him because I haven't really watched more of his tape, but I do think he's going to be a surprising X factor for the Cowboys. Michael Gallup, I know I've seen a lot of problems with him and the rest, and some within the Cowboys fan base. It's like, yeah, the dude is injury prone. Couldn't, the biggest question with it is like, can he ever stay healthy through a 17 game season? That remains to be seen. Gallup had a couple crucial drops. Gardner, right now, I don't know what the update with Gardner, knowing that the fact that we have to bye week at the perfect time, so everyone's going to get healthy. So I do think we're going to have Goddard next week, along with some of the LC's guys. But I would say, Byard actually played pretty okay in the second game, and that's another thing too. Going back to what I said earlier about most Eagles fans giving a lot of crap to Kevin Byard, like the dude's still adjusting to, and this is the second game in. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. So I really do think but I do think Goddard should be good to go because I know these guys are playing no matter what type of. I mean, case in particular, Jalen Hurts with a bum knee, which I do think he suffered back in week 1. Now, yes, there was some. I'm not going to make no excuses, but I do think there should have been some calls made on both sides. Like in particular, yes, I mean with DeMarcus Lawrence should have been gotten flagged for a 15. I think it's a 15-yard. I don't know exactly what the Carson. Because I don't think you're not supposed to hit the quarterback below the knee, but I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to touch on that because for me, the fact that's true. Yeah. So for me, I have a gut feeling. I really hope it's a sprain because if not, I do think we're going to see a little bit more of Albert O. And don't even ask me to pronounce his last name because that's a bunch of mouthful. That's a mouthful of letters. I think Jack Stoll's okay. Is a solid number 3. And Grant Calcaterra, and look, I liked actually the Calcaterra pick. The issue I had with that, now we're seeing it now, it's just like he just can't stay healthy with these damn concussions. And I would not be surprised at some point he might consider an early retirement at this point, which going to stink because, concussions, well, stink. And at the same time, and Turpin, I think he said what actually was okay. For someone who's actually, if you guys watched my last USFL stream, I think during the 2020 season, as someone who actually watched the Philadelphia Stars in 2020, the dude was a pain in the friggin' rear end. But at the same time, CeeDee Lamb, I still think he's should be in the top 5 conversation in terms of wide receivers. Because honestly, I think him, AJ Brown, and CeeDee. Okay, let me rephrase that. Should be Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, or pretty much it's no matter who you're asking. Well, I think Tyreek Hill's still going to be number 1 because I think he's still always the 1,000-yard receiver. I still think, yeah, that you know what, that is absolutely true. I completely, yeah, but no, like I said, good game by Dak. Yes, there was some questionable stuff. That yeah, CD did have a nice game. Look, I'm not going to really not hold it. The dude's a top 3 receiver. I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. I think CeeDee Lamb should be in the conversation to be a top 3 receiver along with AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill. For me, the eye test speaks for itself. The dude's a consistent 100 plus yard receiver. Actually has a decent quarterback. I would say a good quarterback throwing at him, but I'm not going to say look, Dak's not great, but he's kind of like in that middle of the, I'll get to the defense in just a second because speaking of which, you know what, screw it. Let's move on to the defense right now. The zone coverages need to fucking stop. I'm sorry. Like for me, it's not just from the Eagle side of things, but just in football in general, they need to get rid of the damn zone concept. Let's go try implement a Tampa 2 or Tampa, at least something to keep it honest. At least have a blitz up the middle and a man-to-man coverage. Simple as that. For me, I just hate the zone concept. Even fucking in Madden, I don't like the zone concept. It leaves like a wide open hole in the middle of the field. And really bites you in the end for that matter. Now, yes, I mean, yeah, and see, that's the thing too. Dak, I'm not going to see Dak's. I see. I wouldn't see. That's the thing too. For me, I just see it from an outsider. Look, I don't think Dak's that terrible as people are making him out to be. At times, he is very inconsistent depending on who you're asking. There are times where he just doesn't look like the quarterback he is, or at times he'll just carve up somebody. Now, yes, there's an argument to be made that when Dak plays pretty well, he plays against crappy teams like the Giants, the Chargers. Um, it's not really going to make. Like I said, I'm not in this game tonight. Should be no excuses whatsoever. I know, and I've seen a lot of Eagles fans harping on Eli Ricks for paying, for the kid that's having the first opportunity starting in this defense. I think it's going to give him some time. I do think more reps he's going to get, I think the better he's going to be. But I do think he's definitely going to clean it up going into week 11 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I will say, yeah, and that's the problem that I have with too. We should have brought the blitz. I'm tired of the 4-man rush. That's the one thing that's I'm really kind of really just that I don't like about Desai. But the fact that I see some Eagles fans saying that Gannon was better than Desai, I tended to disagree with that. But at least Desai will make adjustments. Gannon, not so much. I mean, we've seen that last year. We know that better than anybody. And and Desai has his play calling got better later in the second half. Oh, Tad, I'm not going to say it was crucial, but they made some crucial stops when really needed. With Jake Ferguson, with Free Blankenship stopping, I would say Jake Ferguson by a foot, or say by half a knee. And that's the thing too. But overall, like I said, I do think I've always will enjoy this rivalry, no matter what people say it is. Like if we're bad, all that kind of crap. Yeah, I mean, at the same point, look, yes, I know we scraped by a 5-point margin. And the way I look at it is this, I've seen some wins that are not great. I've seen some, wins that are complete blowouts. A win is a win, no matter how you look at it. It's a week-to-week league. But there's stuff that does need to be changed. Obviously, try to at least implement a Tampa 2. Maybe don't go see this. Yeah, Swift. I've liked what I've seen from Swift. Probably the best replacement we had from Miles Sanders, who is completely hot garbage down in Carolina. Well, that's your fault for taking the amount of money. But then again, at the same time, even when we did retain Sanders really can't even hold the ball worth a damn. But that's besides the point. I mean, look, Hurts not terrible, but it's been okay. I would say a mid. I'm not gonna say. I would say a mid performance. Kind of middle of the pack. Overall, like I said, went 17 for 23, 207 with 2 scores. Obviously with 3 touchdowns overall in the night with a rushing touchdown. I mean, obviously with the brother shove, Swift, at the and there's a slight positives. One positive in particular is the right guard spot in Tyler Steen. That kid, I've liked what the kid has brought so far in his first 2 games, as a starter. So far in this crucial part of this week, played solidly against Washington, and now against a tough defensive front of the Cowboys. But I will say, once Jerkins gets back, I do think we're going to see this run game be a lot better. We can see, not Gainwell, but Swift, Swift getting a lot more, not more, just more carries, but get more yardage. Kane will Gainwell, I'm kind of 50-50 on. Look, I said I'm not a total hater on Kenny Gainwell, but I just don't really see the belief in him. Well, maybe I could be wrong with this organization, but it was good to see Rashad Penny get a couple touches when we really needed it. But at the same time, this was not the best game. Actually, no, actually, let me rephrase it. No, I think then again, the last 3 weeks, I was going all right, but yeah, look, obviously the red zone offense is starting to finally click. Which how many times we've been saying that, improved that for a while. But the red zone defense has to get better. Like I said, not in terms of changing the scheming patterns. Probably go like a Tampa 2, a Tampa 3, something like that, and also bring a blitz package along mixed with a man-to-man type of coverage. And yes, and I've seen a lot of some Eagles fans kind of harping on Slay for playing like crap. But at the same time, yeah, he played like crap in the first half, but at the same time, but once the second half came along, once he started, getting on the CD, he played pretty much fine guarding CD. And that's not no harp on it. And go back to my thing over Eli Ricks, that's no harp on him, but I don't really think that Ricks is the kind of guy I want to see having CD, but I would say probably like a number 3, number 4, that type of thing. At least have someone that's somewhat experienced have against CD. And yes, I know you had to put him in the slot. And yeah, in cases like that, that would have been Bradley Roby had, he would have been available not because of that damn shoulder injury, which stinks, but I'm not going to make really no excuses about it. But look, we're 8-1. We're going to the bye week. The Dallas Cowboys have the let's bro. They're going to sweep the Giants. It is what it is. They're going to probably blow them out. Like I said, I'm not really going to hold much to that. Brown, not the best game he's played. Seven catches for 66 yards on 9 targets with a touchdown. And same with Smitty, but overall, you really didn't really need much. Try not to do too much. Yeah, right now the only thing I got to see, hopefully we got to straighten things up, is holding on to the damn football, for crying out loud. At the same time, sometimes I wonder if, look, for me, I'm still not a believer on Brian Johnson as much as the next person. Yes, I know I was kind of excited before the season started that we're going to see Brian Johnson take the play calls, but I never really had very low expectations going into this year with Brian Johnson, knowing that it's going to be a different looking offense than what Shane was going to bring, what Shane was bringing courtesy of last year. Now we're seeing, even as the years going on, I think Hurts is that third year as a full-time starter, getting better in terms of completion percentage. The passing yards are going up. And yes, not the best night for terms of the passing the football, but we just pretty much just do what we normally do best outside passing the football, is running the football, which we should have done a lot more in terms of the second half. And some of the play calls, especially in the fourth, after taking over on downs, go with the brotherly shove, which that really never made sense to me. I'm not going to put Johnson on thin ice, but at some point he has to be considered be put on the hot seat. Because I think this team can be at least a 30-point per game team on both, not just at home, but even on the road as well. In terms from the offensive perspective. Defensively, look, for me, I'm not I didn't decide as let's see how that really works out, because I was kind of 50-50 on him, because I don't know exactly what he was going to bring, but this soft zone bullshit that we're still. First of all, I think the zone coverage just need to go. Stick to man, bring a blitz every so often, and just play lockdown defense. Why do you think the Niners right now have the pass? And yes, I know, listen, real now, looks at a whole different consideration. But if you go back to last year under D'Amico Ryans, they played pretty much man-to-man. They brought a Tampa 2, Tampa 1, depending on the situations. And they still were the top defenses in the league. And now, and the fact you're still having guys like Desai, unless we're still on the Vic Fangio tree. And Vic Fangio is not that great as people are making him out to be, because his scheme is kind of flawed. Not really bring a man-to-man, or at least have a blitz up the middle, and have the way I look at it is I try to bring a rush 5, have a couple of at least have a blitz package with a 2 high safety, and a man-to-man type of coverage where all parts of the field are just locked down, and make the opposing offenses a living hell, for crying out loud. But at the same time, I know that sounds kind of far-fetched, I guess one could say. But I think overall, Zach Cunningham was not that bad. Had 8 tackles. Just right now, it's just I want to see more, which is great too. And going into the next guy on defense, that sucks for me to say, to be really harsh on him. Nakobe Dean, for me, I just think Kobe needs to become a lost cause at this point in this defense. Granted, yes, it's this quote-unquote rookie year, But I think I've seen enough where he's become not just become a lost cause, but he's become very injury prone the last year and a half or so. And I will not be surprised if he goes back if the foot injury doesn't turn out to be serious, because that's kind of what kept him out for most of these games. And Nicholas Morrow, I thought actually played some pretty solid games as the replacement to Nakobe Dean. And looking at this linebacker, like the slot corner, the linebackers, they have to get better. Like the outside corners, look, they can fix that. For me, it's the slot corner, or the nickel is basically what is properly called. Which I do hopefully whenever Roby comes back, which we need him terribly in the slot, because you know I know injuries are going to happen in football. It's kind of given when these guys are playing a sport to make a living. But at the same time, you have if Bradley Roby was actually fully healthy, I think this defense could have been a lot different. But we've seen when Bradley Roby plays, this defense doesn't play like crap. Sometimes it's usually the opposite, with the offense just plays like absolute shit. So, I mean, and to the Dallas fans, look, I think you gave us a good game this year. It's not one of the best we played. And yes, it's not been perfect, but then again, no team can't go be playing some perfect games. We've seen some ugly ones. In case in particular, if you're a Giants fan, well, but then again, that's besides the point. But at the same time, I really do like what the Cowboys have in terms of talent wise. No, CeeDee Lamb's a solid number one back, or not receiver, wrong position. Tony Pollard really didn't really do too much, and has some decent chunk yardage, but not to the point where it really meant a lot to the Dallas offense. In particular, 12 carries for 51 yards, pretty much 4.3 yards per carry. And then you had Dak Prescott, pretty much your second leading rusher, with six carries for 14 yards. Um, and that's the thing too. And that was the biggest kind of thing that I've seen. But looking at, but I will say the only thing I would say, I could say the quote unquote weakness with the Dallas Cowboys, it's probably the right tackle position. And I've seen a lot of Cowboys fans bashing Terrence Steele for playing like absolute dog shit. And at times, it's sometimes not warranted, but sometimes it really is. In case in particular, I think it's kind of warranted because you had guys like Sweat getting by you once, and Brandon Graham twice. You know what I'm saying? And you also almost had Nolan Smith. Well, actually, no, Nolan Smith was on the opposite side against the left tackle. But that's besides the point. You have you let guys like Brandon Graham, who could still perform at a high level, in his 14th year in the league. It's one of those things. It's really kind of hard to really hold on to. In terms of, look, current turn, yeah, the Cowboys had more yards than the Philadelphia Eagles, but that really doesn't really mean, like I said, the stats really don't mean much. If you actually know how to win, pull out a win. And yeah, we got outbeat in total yards, passing yards. And yes, we did outrush Dallas 109-73, because we actually have some solid backs that actually can get you, maybe 5, sometimes 10 yards if you're lucky. Fumbles, and obviously, I would say the best time that actually the Eagles have played some solid offense, they actually didn't turn the ball over. Yes, and we lost a couple of fumbles, but at the same time, we actually kept them back. But there was a lot of points we could have probably scored on this Dallas team. Like in terms of actually, at the same time, it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to look like going after the bye week. Hopefully, Desai actually learns how to get his head out of his rear end, so we can stop with this damn having our cornerbacks like 5 yards off the receivers. And yeah, in the slot corner, I really hope Roby is good to go against the Chiefs, which I really hope he is, because not having a slot corner kind of really hurts this defense a little bit. Let's bro, and Bradbury kind of stinks, and he's been bad all year. I'm not gonna really make excuses for that. And yeah, I mean, we basically barely won the time possession battle. We had a better third down conversion percentage. And shout out to Sports PSP with the $2 super chat. I'm not gonna really touch. I want to if we keep playing the way we are and actually start offense playing some solid football and defense get back to the way they were. I can't see why not. We'll repeat that because the last time we ever repeat as division champs was 2003, 2004. It's been a long time since we've been actually repeated as division champs because, yeah, look, last few years, I mean, it's always been excluding 2020 when both us and Dallas were fucking absolute dog shit. So that's besides the point. But the last few years, minus 2020, it's always been us and Dallas. And it's been Dallas one year, Philly one year, Dallas another year. It's been back and forth, I would say, in terms of the NFC East. And right now, I was thinking right now, currently, well, I'm not really going to say that's really look at the state of both the AFC and the NFC. I still think the NFC the NFC East is still the best division in the NFC, but as entirety, boy, a lot of teams have been disappointed this year. That's both the AFC and the NFC. But, like I said, the fact when we pulled out a 5-point margin of victory, quite honestly, that was really stupid. The fact that this Philly Eagles team almost gave most of our fan base a freaking heart attack. Then again, nothing. See, that's the thing too with this team where I will have to nitpick a little bit. It doesn't come. No, this team does not make it easy unless you're playing the fucking Tampa Bay Buccaneers or I was at the New York Giants when I'm looking at the rest of the stretch post the bye week, which we'll go over in just a bit. And because we got to play Dallas again in week 14. Currently, if it stands the way that it is, I do think we own. Look, lifetime, yeah, Dallas has beaten us in terms of lifetime records, sure. But if you talk about this in this season, I think we still hold the tiebreaker. I think over them. I don't know how the NFL tiebreaker works, but I still think because right now we got Kansas City who, coming off a 7-point victory over the Dolphins, have not looked that impressive this entire year. If you looked at last week, they completely looked like absolute shit. The Bills, they've been up and down. Yeah, it's been sloppy football, mostly on the defensive side of the football. Offensively, I had no issues with the offense. That brotherly shove on the 1 yard line was kind of questionable. But the offense played pretty well, or obviously pretty good. Not well, wrong phrasing. But the defense has to get better. Eli Ricks, I think, is definitely going to clean up and get better as the season goes along. Kevin Byard, once he starts acclimated to being in this defensive system, I think he's going to show what he can truly be as in terms of a safety. Hopefully, when we get all the guys back healthy, which I do, and having Cam Jurgens coming back is. I think it's a plus. And look, I don't like Tyler Steen. Don't get me wrong. I do think he's going to be a future there, which I do think once that time comes, and the way I look at it, if Kelsey does retire, at some point we're going to have to get Jurgens more reps at the center position, not in game wise, but work him into become the next center for when Kelsey does officially retire. And then have Tyler Steen as your right guard. Because, I mean, look, I like Suapeta, but he's not that great. He's a solid backup. I think Lane Johnson is pretty much fine. I think give him, if I'm going to have to put a timetable on Johnson, I would say give him like 2 or 3 years or so before you find his replacement. Yeah, and absolutely. And sure thing, too. And also, happy 36th birthday to probably the best center in football. And Jason Kelsey, who's at the end of the day has paved out a Hall of Fame career. And at the same time, though, it really is the way I look at it is the kind of the fact that defensively we play like crap. It is what it is. Like I'm not really going to make no excuses. For me, like I said, it's no look. If you look from the eye test tonight of how the defense has played. You can pretty much see that they always somehow want to give the game right back to the opposition. And look, especially if we can blame Desai for the scheming and a lot of things, but you also got to blame the players too. That at the same time, that's not making the plays. Guys like Bradbury, most times not. Slight at times, depending on if he does get burnt or not. And yeah, I mean, the last couple of few plays has done pretty well locking down CD Lamb. CD Lamb, I say, look, if I was a betting man, I would definitely would have put CD Lamb would at least had over 200 receiving yards on us. But yeah, and the and going with the sacks too, and that's where I've seen a lot of obviously most Cowboys fans that actually have some common sense know that Terrence Steele kind of is weak there at the position. Knowing that the fact you had let Brandon Graham buy you twice, I don't know if Terrence Steele's like I don't know how old is Terrence Steele. If you're a Cowboys fan or any NFL fan, let me know in the chat how long he's been in the league for, because right now you had guys like Brandon Graham, who is 14 years into this league, got by you twice for a second. Same with Jalen Carter helping out, and definitely Josh Sweat. And that's the thing too. Look, it's not, and look, and I've seen Eagles fans blame the defensive line not getting sacks. Look, that's like the defensive problems. The defensive line has been played some okay football. You really can't really blame much on that. It's mostly the secondary. That's always been our weakness the last few years. And look, like I said, I'm the kind of person that does not make excuses for this football team. But look, yes, it's nice to have a win over Dallas. Sure, it is. But it would be nice to actually, and at the same time, it is a divisional game. Divisional rivals actually know how to play play competitively well, not less in other divisions, that is. But it really is. Look, like our 2 games against Washington, it was decided by 1 score. We swept them both. Dallas, it always plays us competitively. Well, up to this point, I would say the last couple of years, or I would say up to last year, I would say, because prior to 2022, I think before the 2022 season, yeah, Dallas kind of pretty much actually learned how to blue us out most times than not. And then, once we strengthened up some parts of the defense, we actually played some hard competitive football against them. Yeah, at the same time, they didn't have their starting quarterback for a week. Same with us, back and forth, and that kind of I would say bullshit that a lot of delusional, I would say both Cowboys and Eagles fans kind of would put that going around. But when you look at the NFC East standings, you still have the Eagles at 8-1, but also we're 3-0 against the division. Look, I still think the Cowboys are a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to go far as people are going to make them out to be. Because I do think they're going to find a way. I would say, but I would be, well, anything can change in a matter of weeks. So I do think, I'm going to say this too for a lot of Cowboys fans. I still think the Cowboys are a playoff team. Talent shows itself, but also it's going to depend, can Dak get over the hump, not just as a quarterback, but also same with Mike McCarthy as a play caller, because I think Packers fans know how bad Mike McCarthy is at times in terms when it comes to the postseason. Minus having, brought up 1 Super Bowl to Green Bay, and we all know how that really turned out to be. I'm not going to harp on too much about it. But, I mean, look, we're fourth, because look, as a team offensively, we're 4th in the league in passing. We're 5th so we're top 5 in receiving. Now the first downs, we got to work on that a lot more in terms on the offensive side. But we're 4th in rushing and 2nd in points scored. You really can't. And people say, "Oh, Brian Johnson ain't it." Well, the team overall, the team ranking. And that's the thing, too. Yeah. And that was positive on both sides. And look, I'm going to give the Cowboys a little bit of praise, too, because I think that's some of the best clean football. Well, minus the penalties, because, boy, both teams got penalties like fucking crazy. But not going to really harp on that because that sounds like a lame excuse for a lot of mostly both mostly those delusional Cowboys fans have no brain cell common sense. Besides the point. I want to say good game for the Cowboys. I've been impressed with what I've seen from the Cowboys. Now, yes, they played some lowly competition, but they showed, they're one of the best teams in the NFC. I think they're the 3rd best team. Actually, 4th best team, because it's going to be the Niners, Philly, Detroit. I know Detroit has kind of been a little bit up and down, I would say, in certain games, but I still think Detroit's the 3rd best team in the NFC, and then you got the Cowboys. Because outside of that, it's anybody's game. Falcons, shit. Oh, well, depending on if they're going to rely on Heineke for the rest of the year. That's besides the point. And, and yeah, but at the same time, still going to get nonetheless, but just there's a lot of stuff that went completely wrong. So when you look at the rest of the upcoming schedule, especially come the post bye, say from weeks 11 to 15, you got the Chiefs on prime time, the Bills. That's another Kelly Green game. For those who are wondering, the Niners. That remains to be seen if what Chase Young's going to look like with the Niners come. I don't think come post or bye next week. We got to go to travel to Arlington. Not well. Even though it's kind of weird that the Dallas Cowboys are located in Arlington, even though their name's in Dallas. But maybe if you live in Texas, let me know, because I've never been to Texas, so I can't say much. It's the location that's kind of where it just throws me off. And you got the Seahawks who, oh boy, who got their asses whooped by the Ravens this week. So, and then when you look at the last three games, so people say, oh, you got a gauntlet from weeks 11 through 15. And then from 16 to 18, pretty much play shitty top competition. You got the Giants twice and then the Cardinals. And that's pretty much about it. At best, I can see a loss within this quote unquote gauntlet is probably split with the Cowboys. I'd be shocked if we do sweep the Cowboys, but I think at best we do split the Cowboys. I think we have this. We're capable of beating the Chiefs. We definitely could hold our own against the Buffalo Bills if they don't play like absolute dog water, but that's a whole different situation. The Niners, well, that remains to be seen what they look like coming out of their bye next week. But I mean, like the Giants, I think we're going to the only because I think I've seen a lot of Eagles fans say the only sweeps we're seeing is probably Washington and the Giants. And that's when you turn more realistically, because Dallas, they always will give us a run for our money. It's always been like we always, and I'll say this too. Last and final thought: the Cowboys and Eagles are the best rivalry, not just in football, but in all of the four American sports. I don't give a shit what anybody says. It's always been the best rivalry that we had since. The Cowboys been around since 1960. We've been around since 1933, and I know a lot of older fans know how bad the Eagles were. Obviously, probably the 70s, better parts. No, obviously not big parts of the 80s. That's here nor there. But overall, look, a win's a win, but I don't like it. Just from a different multitude of reasons. Obviously, the defense needs to get better. That's my only gripe this week. Obviously the last couple of weeks, with Washington was not that great, and same with the Dallas Cowboys. But offensively, we played some solid football offensively the last 2 to 3 weeks. The red zone's starting to get better. We're finally actually have some common sense. I would say Jalen Carter was definitely a defensive rookie of the year. But that remains. It's probably obviously the most heavily favored, but I'm not going to harp on too much until we see after the season starts. But look, I gotta give the Cowboys their due. I would say even their flowers as well. Played a solid game despite the fact they got penalized 10 times, and so do we. There should be if you're going to be one of the delusional Cowboys fans, a little message to that before we get up out of here. And I know for those who are seeing this on Twitter, stop blaming the refs, because if y'all can play like shit, depending on certain positions, stop making excuses. Get bet, improve their skills position. Like us, perfect example. Like I said, I want to talk more on that too. Our corners stink. We don't have an actual true slot corner with Bradley Roby being out with that damn shoulder injury, which stinks. I like Eli Ricks, but I do think he's going to need more seasoning. I think he's going to get more seasoning as the time goes on with the Philadelphia Eagles. Bradbury, trust me, I want this to go on more than anybody and I know this is one bad year for him, but all the stuff that he does this entire year has hurt this team most times than not on the defensive and the secondary. And I'm not going to be surprised if Howie does make any phone calls because, and yes, I would like to see, would have been like to be, set when Kevin Byard is one thing, when it comes to the trade deadline, yeah, you should have improved a lot more in some areas. Knowing that if you're not going to have Bradley Roby for the Dallas week, you could at least make a move for us another slot corner until then. But look, it is what it is. It's a win, but we got to get better going into not next week, but the following week. We go against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football, which I will be alive for that on Monday Night Football. And at the same time, I thought actually it's one of the best NFC games that I've seen. Well, scratch that, second best. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Oh, sorry. Oh boy, sorry about that. Okay, I guess I didn't think I had the sneeze. Well, like I was saying, so all in all, like I said, it's been interesting. So far, it's been an interesting season so far for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, I mean, yes, we're 8-1, and we're lucky to the fact we're 8-1. Not the best 8-1 team overall, but if we played what we can do or what we're known to do, I think we have a different conversation that we're probably the best 8-1 team. Right now, we're kind of an average 8-1 team. And when you look at it realistically, I think overall, like I said, I see this team going winning at least 13 games, like a 13-4 record. I don't think they're a team that's going 14-3 again. I'd be shocked if we do win 14 games, but not exactly really. But realistically, if you're asking me like my record prediction, which I didn't really make on this channel before the season started, but I even like I said, the floor I see was 12-5 for this team, but the ceiling's probably 13-4, maybe 4. I mean, if we actually get clicking, playing some solid football on both sides and all facets. Because special teams, well, I think that's the one time special teams actually played like shit. That's that's another point I want to discuss before we get up out of here. Look, special teams has been very solid for most of this year, which is kind of crazy, but to believe that's the only time that the special teams actually played like absolute shit because Kevontae Turpin's the speedster. When when you're not facing guys like Kevontae Turpin, that's when you know this special teams actually plays like pretty well. And yes, special teams, this is the first time Jake Elliott's been fine, but in terms of the kick return and stuff like that, I think this is the first time that's actually that side of the football has not been good. But a lot of times, it's a team. See, this is what I like. It's kind of hard to describe it too, but I really do think the special teams are going to probably bounce back next week, or obviously the week after, because I do think with the Chiefs, depending on who they have at the kick return position, which stinks that we'll have to wait and see because we've seen teams actually really playing pretty well against the Chiefs against the special teams. So with that all said, I think overall we're an average 8-8-1 team. There are times we play like a top tier team. Sometimes we play like a bottom tier team, or sometimes right in the middle. Like there's no even ground for the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's going to be interesting to see going forward. Going to week 11 against the Chiefs, which, like I said, I might or may not be live, so stick out as well. But before we get out of here, so obviously what we have planned for the rest of the skit for this week, not just from my side of things, but also for me and Tyler. For those who are wrestling fans, we're going to be double up again for Monday and Thursday at 6:00 Eastern time for this running podcast. Guys, make sure you guys check that out when we go live for that. Monday night as well, it will be live or for the Pelicans and Nuggets. Almost got the wrong team out of the way. But outside of that, like we don't have really much going on this week. Like I said, we'll definitely would put up some. What do you call it? Pretty much some. I don't know. It's really hard to describe, though, of what I'm going to try to say. But outside of that, if you guys new, make sure to definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you guys want to, have any because like I said, we'll talk more of this too, and obviously check out the All Star Sports Show every Friday, probably at Friday at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Like I said, we'll talk more of NFL, the NFL, NBA, WNBA, that kind of thing. So you guys want to check that out because I think you're gonna most of y'all gonna like that show. If you just want to come in for let's see NFL talk and something like that, like I said, we got you guys some good stuff coming up this week. And outside of that, I got nothing really else to add. But go Birds! Also clean this shit up because let's be real, tonight was. I feel like I want to draw myself the drink, but that's besides the point. And with that being said, have the great rest of your night and happy early Thanksgiving to everybody. So you guys don't want to miss that out as well. And peace.